Would you pray with me, please? Oh God, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of all of our hearts, no matter where we have gathered, be pleasing and acceptable to you this day, for you are truly our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. So as we continue in this Unraveled series, today we're looking at yet another familiar story to many of you. It's the story of Zacchaeus. Many of you remember Sunday school songs about the man Zacchaeus. But I'm going to invite you to unravel your thinking perhaps a little bit with this text. You see, most of the time, or for most of us, we spend all of our lives thinking about Zacchaeus being a really bad guy, that he pressured and bribed people in order to do his tax collecting, which was his way of making a living. He did it through the Roman government. And he was always given this, he's bad because he kind of uses people and isn't in a real good light for most of us. And I always imagined, as I've looked at this text now for years and years, that when Zacchaeus went up the tree and Jesus saw him and kind of is like this, Zacchaeus, come down from that tree, that Jesus was going to have one of those, what I call now, and have had many of in my lifetime, a come to Jesus moment. You know, that serious talk like you're really misbehaving and you need to start getting things right. That's how I've always imagined and actually taught and looked at this text before. But I'm going to invite you, since we are in a season of unraveling, to look at this text perhaps in a way that you haven't done before. You see, just imagine, we have through the entire Gospel of Luke and in many of the New Testament texts, stories of Jesus kind of unraveling and turning things upside down anyway, right? So let's just think for a moment. Jesus, in our day, perhaps would have the hottest podcast around. Everybody's talking about the podcast that Jesus. Did you hear about when he told that talk about what we should do, how we should live? The one that begins, blessed are these people. Or perhaps you ran across Jesus in this way. His TED Talk has had over 1 million views. It was the one where he talks about feeding the 5,000 people and how that happened and how you might participate in such things. Yes, I would imagine that the word was around Jericho in quite a way. People talking about this man Jesus and the miracles and the way that he was in relationship with people, especially throughout the Gospel of Luke, with these stories after stories of healing and people's lives truly being made better. So what if we held the looking at this text in a way that maybe we haven't looked at before? You see, as I dig deeper into these words, and I'm using the CEB Bible right now, Zacchaeus, I believe, has already begun his process of transformation. He has already, before meeting Jesus in person, but having heard about him, because you know how word travels. Everybody knows. Whether they want to pay attention to it or not is their business. But everybody knows about this man Jesus. So I believe Zacchaeus has started, probably in a slow way, his process of transformation, his process of turning his life around towards Jesus. And I think that he has some questions that he wants to ask. And I think that's why we see him running when he finds out Jesus is around, running to see this man that he's heard about, running to find out what else he can do with his own life. You see, If he wasn't interested somehow in Jesus, why on earth would he make the effort to climb the tree? And why on earth would he be happy to see Jesus? You see, that's what our text says. Zacchaeus is happy. Well, if Zacchaeus was this bad guy, that he had treated people meanly and he thought Jesus was perhaps going to come down on him, do you really think he'd want to see Jesus that day? Do you really think he would have chased after him, gone up on a tree unless he was going to hide? No. The text says that he was happy to welcome Jesus. And then, immediately after he comes down, and Jesus tells him, I must stay at your house today, Zacchaeus, everyone who saw this grumbled. Now, I believe in part they were grumbling about Jesus. Oh my gosh, why is he hanging out and being the guest of a sinner? But I also believe they're grumbling about what they think about who Zacchaeus is. I think that they know about Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus, in his job as a tax collector, has probably pressured them into making sure that they gave an appropriate amount of money, or perhaps a little bit more, to line his pockets. They've seen what this man can do. They know what the tax collectors for Rome, many of them, are like. You see, the tax collectors had this job that they bid for. And if you promised the governor, say that, I will collect you the most amount of money, you're likely to get hired. You can hire other people to work for you. Everybody charges higher rates, so the people collecting for you get to pocket a little bit. And then, of course, men like Zacchaeus and others get to pocket a lot more. It tells us in the text that he's a very wealthy man. Somehow that money has come to us. And because giving the tithes, probably initially not in a good way. And we don't know that for sure, but we can suspect that. At any rate, these people who were around this event of Jesus and then Zacchaeus coming down from the tree are grumbling. And they want to know what's going on. And Zacchaeus vindicates himself. Listen carefully to his words. He's speaking to Jesus. Look, Lord, I give half my possessions to the poor. And if I have cheated anyone, I repay them 4 times as much. And this is where we need to go back and look at the Greek. Look at what we have as original texts. Now, I never learned Greek, so I'm always dependent on other scholars to help me out here. And I've learned and studied the Bible and studied for this work that I do from the New Revised Standard Version. It had just come out when Mike and I started seminary, and so the reading of this particular text is a little bit different. You see, Zacchaeus says very clearly, and this is actually in the Greek, I give half my possessions. It doesn't say, Jesus, because of you, I will give. It doesn't say anything about what will come in the future. He's saying, this is what I am doing. Now, in the New Revised Standard Version and the NIV and other versions of the Bible, it presents a different take on these words. Kind of like I said, his relationship with his own money was going to change because of his encounter with Jesus. I think it probably did, but I think it changed before he actually met Jesus. In order for him to vindicate himself, he had gone through this transformation. No matter how he earned his money before, he had gone through this transformation so that he could truthfully say, I give half my possessions to the poor, and I repay anyone I have wronged 4 times as much. You see, it's a big difference than if we think this big thing happened because of Jesus. And yet that's the way I've looked at this text most of my life. So again, I'm going to invite you to kind of unravel perhaps how you have thought about this text and push a little bit, because that's how we learn and it's kind of fun. Jesus affirms Zacchaeus' words. He says, salvation has come to this household because he too is a son of Abraham, the one that is lost. The human one came to seek and save the lost. See, he affirms who Zacchaeus is, and the people around him know well how important it is for them perhaps to take a step back and go, oh, if Jesus sees him, Zacchaeus, as a son of Abraham, how do I need to change my thinking about who I think Zacchaeus is? You see, this happens to us every day. We make judgments about people we see on the news, about people we see in the street. We make judgments about people because of the kind of car they drive, where they live in town, and perhaps because of the handbag or the shoes that they have on their person. We make these assumptions and these judgments, and oftentimes the person we're judging has no way to vindicate themselves. See, one of the things that this text brings up for me is that this unraveling that is happening to us now because of COVID, because of the unrest, because of racial injustice in this country, because of what's happening to our economy and all of the people out of work, all of the people hurting, is we have to take the time, first off, to see if we even want to welcome Jesus happily or not. Do we? Because I'm telling you, this relationship with Jesus is a dig deep kind of thing. It puts all of our thinking out on the table. It puts all that we've done on the line. The same as it did for Zacchaeus. If he had done these bad things, treated people poorly, he was wrestling with that and came to an understanding that his life was going to be different because of Jesus. And Jesus affirms that. He is the son of Abraham. That he comes, Jesus comes, for the sake of those who are seeking, for those who are lost. Unraveling, dismantling, really inviting us to go deep. Zacchaeus gave up his own money. What will we change? How will we be transformed? How will we deal with the unraveling that is all around us? For Zacchaeus, I believe everything changed before that encounter with Jesus, but because of him, and then certainly afterward. It takes great courage, dear friends. It takes great courage to be encountered by this Jesus who calls us down from our hiding places, calls us out from behind what we're keeping secret from him. It takes great courage to encounter this Jesus. It's not for the faint of heart, for he will unravel our worlds. You see, the question for us then becomes, will we, like Zacchaeus, be happy to welcome Jesus into our lives with all that we're going to be asked to do? How do we spend our time? How do we spend our money? How do we stand up for justice? How do we feed the poor? How do we help the teachers and the students? How are we mindful about the healthcare workers? How do we deal with the crisis in this country on so many levels? Can we be proactive, perhaps, as Zacchaeus was? He listened. In our case, reading the text in my mind, listening to Jesus' podcasts, or following his TED Talks, and I can make light of that. But it is so important for us to see how we will be a part of the change, how we have the opportunity to literally change what we do, how we live, how we are followers of the Christ in everything that we do. So hurry up and be close. Quit glimpsing life from the sycamore tree or from the crowd. At a distance isn't good enough for Jesus. This is him speaking to you. I want to stay at your home. I've come now to stay at your home, and you're in your heart. Always, today and forever. May it be so. Amen.